Paris, August 30th, 1979. Police find a woman's body slumped in a white Renault parked on a quiet street. Empty pill bottles scattered across the seat. The victim? Jean Seberg, the blonde beauty who once captivated France in Breathless. She was only 40 years old. The official report called it another tragic Hollywood ending. But documents released by the FBI years later told a different story, one of surveillance, psychological warfare, and a government agency that deliberately set out to destroy her. What really happens when Hollywood's brightest stars dare to challenge the system? Some lost their careers, some lost their freedom, and one lost her life. Throughout the golden age of cinema, while audiences watched heroes triumph on screen, real heroes were being hunted behind the scenes. The FBI kept files, studios blacklisted, colleagues abandoned them. This is the untold cost of courage, and the price was higher than anyone imagined.
Number 1. The actress Hollywood destroyed, Jean Seberg. Jean Seberg should have had it all. After Breathless exploded across European screens in 1960, she became the face of the French New Wave. Directors from Rome to Tokyo wanted her. American studios offered contracts that would set her up for life. But Jean made a choice that sealed her fate. In the late 1960s, while most stars sipped cocktails in Beverly Hills, Seberg started showing up at Black Panther fundraisers in Oakland. She didn't just write checks from a distance. She wore their t-shirt in public, with that iconic Black Panther logo right across her chest. She told reporters Panthers weren't monsters, but people fighting for survival. Jean poured thousands into legal defense funds for members sitting in jail cells. The FBI noticed immediately, and they didn't just monitor her, they plotted her destruction. Under J. Edgar Hoover's COINTELPRO program, Jean became target number 1. In 1970, agents crafted a lie so vicious it would break her completely. They spread a rumor that the father of Jean's unborn child was a Black Panther member, then leaked it to gossip columnist Joyce Haber at the Los Angeles Times. The story exploded. Tabloids in America and France picked it up, each one more vicious than the last. When Jean went into labor prematurely, photographers camped outside the Paris hospital, hoping the baby would have darker skin to confirm the rumor. The infant died 2 days after birth. Doctors said the premature labor came from extreme stress. Jean held her daughter's body and knew exactly who had killed her baby. She never recovered. Friends said she became paranoid, but was it really paranoia when the FBI later admitted they were surveilling her? She checked under furniture for listening devices, pulled apart light fixtures looking for cameras, stopped trusting her phone. She drowned herself in sleeping pills and alcohol just to quiet the voices. Directors who once begged to work with her avoided her calls. Studios wouldn't touch her. By 1979, Jean was a shell of herself. That August night, alone in her car, she took her final handful of pills. Years later, the FBI released documents confirming the smear campaign, calling it a successful psychological operation. But Jean was already gone. Her story became Hollywood's darkest warning about challenging power, backed by the federal government.
Number 2. The Godfather Who Rejected Hollywood, Marlon Brando. March 27, 1973, the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion was packed for the 45th Academy Awards. When the host opened the envelope for Best Actor, the room held its breath. Marlon Brando for The Godfather. Applause erupted, cameras searching for Hollywood's most magnetic star. But Brando wasn't there. Instead, a young Apache woman named Sacheen Littlefeather walked onto that stage wearing traditional buckskin dress, hands trembling under the lights. She refused the Oscar on Brando's behalf, stating he could not accept due to Hollywood's treatment of Native Americans. The room went silent. Then came the booze. Backstage, John Wayne was so furious that 6 security guards had to physically hold him back from storming out there. The message was clear. Brando had just committed career treason in front of 85 million viewers. But this wasn't a sudden impulse. Marlon had been building toward this for years. Back in 1968, when Martin Luther King Jr. was killed, Brando immediately flew to Memphis for the funeral, despite his manager's desperate warnings. Life magazine caught him in the grieving crowd, no bodyguards, quietly holding hands with people crying. Throughout the late 60s, Brando funneled tens of thousands to the Black Panthers, paying legal fees for members locked up in Oakland. His close friend Harry Belafonte said Marlon would drive to his small Harlem apartment and stay until 3 a.m. planning fundraisers. This wasn't celebrity activism. This was a man putting his money and body on the line. The FBI placed Brando on a special watch list for ties to radical organizations. Studios started cutting contracts. Directors who once fought to work with him suddenly had scheduling conflicts. Conservative newspapers called him a traitor to the industry. After the Oscar refusal, the backlash intensified. Major productions went to other actors. Scripts dried up. His asking price dropped, but Brando never apologized. In a BBC interview shortly after, he said he'd rather be boycotted than stay silent while people suffered. The Godfather wasn't just a role, it was who Marlon Brando actually was. A man who understood that real power means nothing if you don't use it to protect those who have none.
Number 3. The star who lived in Mississippi's war zone, Shirley MacLaine. Mississippi in 1964 wasn't just another southern state, it was a war zone. Freedom Summer had brought hundreds of volunteers trying to register voters in a place where signing your name could get you killed. Churches were bombed, crosses burned in yards. 3 civil rights workers had already been murdered that summer. Into this nightmare walked Shirley MacLaine, fresh off success in the apartment. She could have stayed in New York, but instead got on a plane to Jackson and moved into a rickety wooden house with the Black family. Shirley didn't visit for a photo op. She lived there for weeks, sharing meals of beans and cornbread, sitting in the dark when Klan trucks crawled past outside. One night, a burning cross blazed just down the road, close enough that smoke seeped through the windows. The mother whispered that they wanted everyone scared enough to quit. Shirley squeezed her hand and said they wouldn't give them that satisfaction. By day, she joined volunteers going door to door, encouraging residents to register despite the risks. The Jackson Clarion-Ledger ran a story about a Hollywood actress in town, which drew attention from authorities and the FBI. Rumors spread that the Klan had put Shirley on a list, planning to make an example of her. Friends begged her to leave. She stayed for weeks, her presence alone giving people hope. When Shirley finally left Mississippi, she didn't go quiet. In 1968, at the Democratic National Convention in Chicago, where police beat protesters on live television, she took the stage and openly criticized law enforcement. While other celebrities hid behind PR statements, Shirley declared this wasn't the America she believed in. Hollywood didn't forgive that defiance. Major directors stopped returning calls. Studios cut back on scripts. There were whispers, never confirmed, but persistent, that she'd been threatened in LA parking lots. Shirley could have played it safe. Instead, she chose to sleep in a house with a burning cross outside, proving justice wasn't just a role you played, it was a life you lived.
Number 4. The rebel who put truth on screen, Dennis Hopper. Hollywood's wild child, the guy with blazing eyes who made executives nervous. In 1969, Hopper and Peter Fonda made Easy Rider, a tiny independent film that would change American cinema. What most don't know is that Hopper refused to shoot on safe studio lots. He took the crew into real southern towns where hostility hung in the air. In one scene, Hopper and Fonda's characters stop at a diner and get stared down by locals. Those weren't actors playing bigots. That was real footage of actual hostility the crew faced. Hopper told Rolling Stone that people wanted them gone, that the tension was suffocating. He told the cameraman to keep rolling, to capture the real America. After Easy Rider became a massive hit, studios threw money at Hopper for his next project. He chose a dangerous path. In 1971, he made The Last Movie, casting an Afro-Peruvian actor in the lead despite studio demands to whitewash the character. The film openly criticized Hollywood's exploitation of native cultures. Executives were furious. When it premiered at Venice Film Festival, people booed loudly. Variety ran a headline saying Hopper had destroyed his own career. Contracts were canceled within weeks. Hollywood branded him persona non grata. Dennis spent nearly a decade in the wilderness, surviving on tiny roles in obscure projects. Off-screen, he kept pushing. He attended Black Panther fundraisers in LA, donated money, spoke against police brutality. Once on a late-night New York show, the host tried to steer towards safe topics. Hopper snapped, saying cops were beating innocent people in the streets and all anyone wanted to talk about was movies. The audience went silent. Rumors circulated that the FBI had put Hopper on a watch list. Co-stars recalled seeing strange men in parking lots writing down license plates. Whether surveillance was real or not, the career damage definitely was. Hopper didn't work consistently until 1986, when David Lynch cast him in Blue Velvet. By then, he'd lost more than a decade of prime years. But Dennis never regretted it. He said he'd lost battles, but never bowed his head. That cinema had to show the truth, even if it destroyed your career.
Number 5. The cool king who secretly funded freedom, Steve McQueen. Steve McQueen was the king of cool. Sunglasses, motorcycles, that icy stare that made him a global icon. But behind that image was something cameras rarely caught. A man who quietly used his fortune to change lives. In August 1963, as Martin Luther King Jr. prepared to deliver his I Have a Dream speech, many black artists in Hollywood wanted to attend the March on Washington. The problem was money. Plane tickets, hotels, it all added up. At a Beverly Hills party, McQueen overheard this conversation. Without making a scene, he pulled his manager aside and said to buy tickets for all of them, every single person who wanted to go but couldn't afford it. Harry Belafonte later revealed that McQueen spent around $25,000 covering travel and lodging for black artists to attend the March on Washington. He didn't fly with them, he didn't stand in the crowd for photo opportunities, he just sent them and stayed quiet. For McQueen, the dream shouldn't be stopped by the price of airfare. On set, he was just as tough. In 1966, while filming The Sand Pebbles in Taiwan, he discovered the crew had segregated housing. White actors in nice hotels, non-white actors in inferior accommodations. McQueen exploded. He slammed his fist on the table and said he wouldn't shoot another scene until it was fixed. The next day, housing was rearranged. Rumors swirled around McQueen's personal life. In 1970, a New York tabloid claimed he was secretly dating a black singer in Harlem. It stirred up conservative gossip and made studio executives nervous. McQueen never confirmed or denied anything. When a CBS host asked him directly, McQueen just smirked and said he chose who he wanted, not a skin color. The audience applauded, but producers were sweating. McQueen was becoming unpredictable, which meant risky. Major projects started going to other actors. Directors whispered he liked to cause trouble. But McQueen didn't care about playing the game. To him, fairness mattered more than adding another action hero to his resume. He lived by a simple code. If you see something wrong, you fix it. The king of cool wasn't just a persona. It was a man who understood that real toughness meant standing up for what's right even when it cost you everything.
Number 6. The TV star who walked into violence, James Garner. James Garner wasn't the type to chase headlines. On screen, he played quiet rebels who didn't need to shout to make a point. Off-screen, he lived that same philosophy until March 1965. Martin Luther King Jr. had called for a march from Selma to Montgomery, Alabama. Bloody Sunday had just happened, state troopers beating marchers on the Edmund Pettus Bridge on national television. Most stars stayed far away. Some sent donations. Garner didn't write a check. He climbed into his own small plane, flew from California to Alabama alone, rented a car, and drove straight to Selma. No manager, no publicist, no camera crew. He just showed up and joined thousands walking directly behind Martin Luther King Jr. Life magazine photographers captured the moment. One of America's most bankable TV actors striding among banners and chants of "We shall overcome." When reporters asked why, Garner said he knew he could lose everything, but he was a human being before he was an actor. The consequences were immediate and brutal. Sponsors of Maverick pressured the network to cut his contract. The Los Angeles Herald ran a headline saying Garner had chosen Selma over Hollywood. At Beverly Hills parties, colleagues avoided him, terrified of being branded a protesting star by association. In 1966, Garner appeared on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. When Carson asked about Selma, Garner looked into the camera and said police were beating innocent people and he couldn't sit at home drinking whiskey and pretending nothing was happening. The audience went quiet, then erupted in applause. But applause didn't pay bills. Behind the scenes, Garner was quietly blacklisted from major projects throughout the late 1960s. Studios saw him as a liability. Projects he should have been offered went to other actors without explanation. Beyond marching, Garner spoke out against police violence in Washington Post interviews. He demanded studios hire more black crew members. Once, he walked away from a lucrative TV project when the company refused to hire a black director, saying audiences wouldn't accept it. Garner told them if audiences couldn't handle a black director, those weren't audiences he wanted. He told the Chicago Tribune he'd rather be unemployed than turn his back on injustice, and for several years he almost was. James Garner didn't roar or make grand gestures. His calm honesty alone unsettled an industry built on looking the other way. While others chose safety, he put his feet on the ground in Selma, where blood could spill at any moment. That's what real courage looks like.
Number 7. The Bronx Kid Who Threatened to Walk. Tony Curtis. Tony Curtis grew up poor in the Bronx, a Jewish kid who knew what it felt like to be looked down on. That understanding of prejudice stayed with him even after he became a Hollywood heartthrob. In 1958, Curtis got cast in The Defiant Ones, a groundbreaking film about two escaped prisoners, one white and one black, chained together while on the run. His co-star was Sidney Poitier. But United Artists got cold feet, fearing the Southern market would boycott a film showing a white man and black man as equals. Executives suggested replacing Poitier with another white actor and using makeup. When Curtis heard this, he slammed his fist on the table during a Sunset Boulevard meeting. He said if Sidney doesn't act, then Tony Curtis won't either. They thought he was bluffing. Stars didn't walk away from major pictures over something like this, but Curtis meant it. He walked out, called Variety, and told them he was withdrawing unless Poitier stayed. Suddenly, everything changed. The studio couldn't afford to lose Curtis, so they backed down. But Curtis didn't stop there. He demanded that Poitier's name appear on the promotional poster right next to his in the same size font. This had never been done. Black actors were usually relegated to tiny print at the bottom. The official poster displayed Curtis and Poitier side by side, a public statement they were equals. When the film premiered, it caused a sensation. Both actors received Oscar nominations for Best Actor, the first time a black performer stood on equal ground in that category. Reporters asked Curtis if he worried about Southern backlash. He just smiled and said he was a poor Jewish kid from the Bronx who knew what being looked down on felt like, and he wouldn't let Hollywood do that to Sidney. But defiance came with a price. Rumors spread that Southern producers refused to screen his films afterward. Some blockbuster projects lost funding simply because Curtis's name was attached. The Chicago Tribune reported Curtis had been quietly blacklisted, forcing him to struggle for major roles in following years. But those bold choices turned Curtis into a hero among peers. Sidney Poitier later said on 60 Minutes that without Tony, he wouldn't have had his career. It was proof one star's firm stand could push an entire system to change. Tony Curtis did what no one else dared in 1958, with all the pride of a Bronx kid who refused to bow down.
Number 8. The Diamond Who Broke Segregation. Elizabeth Taylor. In the 1950s, Hollywood's champagne parties came with an unspoken rule. Black artists were not allowed in.
At Beverly Hills galas, their presence usually meant an invitation canceled. But Elizabeth Taylor, the woman the world called the Talking Diamond, chose to break that rule. Sammy Davis Jr., one of the rare black talents to reach the spotlight, was often blocked at doors for being unfit for guest lists. Most white stars stayed silent, but Taylor boldly took Davis Jr.'s arm and walked straight in, smiling radiantly for press cameras, as if declaring, "He's here, and I'm with him." The confrontation peaked in 1961 when Davis Jr. married white actress Mae Britt. The wedding outraged conservative America. Organizers of President Kennedy's inauguration ball canceled Davis Jr.'s invitation just days before. Furious, Elizabeth Taylor told Variety, "This is not the America I want to live in. If someone like Sammy is rejected simply for love, then no party is worth attending." She told Barbara Walters this was the moment she lost faith in the political elite. Taylor didn't stop there. She pressured MGM to ensure Davis Jr. and other artists of color received equal pay. An internal memo from 1963, later uncovered by Hollywood Reporter, revealed Taylor threatened to halt filming Cleopatra for 2 days if pay disparities weren't corrected in another project. She was willing to risk a multi-million-dollar blockbuster to demand fairness. In the 1980s, when HIV/AIDS spread rapidly, Taylor again stood against the majority. While many stars avoided the issue in fear, she went on CBS saying, "This is not someone's disease, this is our pain." She founded AmFAR, raised funds for research, donated millions from her own pocket. Most victims were Black and Latinx communities already marginalized. Taylor didn't care about gossip, asking, "Why would a movie star get involved?" For her, silence meant complicity. The New York Post once headlined, "Elizabeth Taylor, the star of those Hollywood forgot." Fans remembered her violet eyes, but the marginalized remembered a woman who dared to sit at their table, embrace them on camera, and shout when the whole hall stayed quiet.
Number 9. The quiet hero who gave away his fortune, Paul Newman. When people think of Paul Newman, they remember ocean blue eyes and charm that bewitched millions. But behind the Hollywood glow, Newman lived a thorny life, ready to confront injustices the industry avoided. In summer 1963, when hundreds of thousands gathered in Washington to hear Martin Luther King Jr.'s "I Have a Dream," Newman didn't stay in his Beverly Hills mansion. He flew to the Capitol and quietly joined the march. Life magazine caught him in his simple white shirt walking alongside Sidney Poitier and Harry Belafonte, unbothered that cameras captured him beside faces authorities branded as troublemakers. According to NAACP records, Newman secretly donated tens of thousands to voter registration programs in the South, where signing a form could cost someone their life. On set, Newman often upset studios. He rejected scripts with discriminatory tones and demanded Black co-stars' names appear on posters in the same font size as his. In 1967, during Cool Hand Luke, he discovered Black crew members were paid half the white rate. Newman immediately phoned producer Jack Lemmon saying, "I won't work another day if this isn't fixed." The next day, wages were corrected. Off-screen, Newman broke unwritten social rules. He openly befriended Black artists, hosting parties at his Westport mansion where Joanne Woodward poured drinks for Belafonte while Poitier played cards with young directors. A 1972 New York Times article described it as, "In Newman's home, you see a Hollywood America wasn't ready to accept." He even rented an apartment in Westport to a Black family, despite neighbors' outrage over the whites-only community. On CBS, he bluntly replied, "If they don't like it, they can move." His most remarkable act was founding Newman's Own in 1982, donating all profits to charity, much to Black communities and vulnerable groups. "You can't be as rich as I am without giving back," Newman told 60 Minutes. Journalists called him the star who turned salad dressing into social justice. But his legacy didn't end smoothly. After Newman's death in 2008, a legal battle erupted. Wall Street Journal called it an internal coup as financial advisors took control.
What was once his pride became a painful legacy. Paul Newman proved a star could shine light on darkness instead of merely himself.
Number 10. Recent revelations that change everything. For decades, these stories were treated as isolated incidents. But in recent years, declassified FBI documents revealed something far more disturbing. The surveillance and sabotage weren't random. They were coordinated, systematic, designed to send a message to anyone thinking about stepping out of line. Between 2019 and 2022, thousands of pages from COINTELPRO operations were released, painting a chilling picture. Multiple stars were under simultaneous watch, phones tapped, movements tracked, associations noted in detailed reports sent to J. Edgar Hoover's desk. The scale was staggering. Agents didn't just monitor activists, they actively worked to destroy careers, planting false stories in the press, pressuring studios to cancel contracts, spreading rumors designed to isolate targets from colleagues. Jean Seberg wasn't an anomaly. She was the most visible victim of a much larger operation. The documents confirmed coordinated industry pressure, studios working with federal agents to ensure stars who spoke out would pay dearly. How many careers were deliberately destroyed? How many actors, writers, directors were quietly pushed out because they attended the wrong rally or donated to the wrong cause? The revelations raise uncomfortable questions about stars who stayed silent. Were they cautious or complicit? Some historians argue silence in the face of injustice is its own form of participation. Others point out fear is a powerful motivator, and not everyone has courage to risk everything. There are modern parallels too. Today's cancel culture, where careers end over a single tweet, echoes COINTELPRO dynamics. The tools changed, but the underlying question remains. What happens when you challenge the dominant narrative? Who decides which voices get heard and which get silenced? What we can learn from these documents is that courage has always been expensive. The stars in this story knew the risks and chose to act anyway. They understood fame is fleeting, but integrity lasts. A film historian noted that actors who fought for justice are remembered far more fondly than those who played it safe. Marlon Brando's Oscar refusal is iconic. Jean Seberg's story has been turned into films examining FBI overreach. Steve McQueen's quiet generosity inspired a generation. The system tried to bury them, but history elevated them instead.
These weren't just actors playing heroes. They became real-life targets the moment they chose justice over comfort. Some paid with their careers, some paid with their mental health, and Jean Seberg paid with her life. But their sacrifice opened every door that followed for Black artists who'd been locked out for decades. Brando rejected the Oscar. McClane slept with burning crosses outside. Hopper lost a decade. McQueen spent a fortune in silence. Garner walked into violence. Curtis threatened to quit. Taylor broke segregation. Newman gave away his fortune. Seberg paid with everything. Their stories force us to ask, would you risk it all for what's right? These legends proved real heroism happens at a crossroads, where one path leads to safety and the other to consequences you can't predict. They chose the harder path every time. Hollywood tried to bury their defiance, but we remember because their courage still matters today. What do you think of these stars who risked everything to fight injustice? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more untold Hollywood stories that changed history.